Black Hat USA has always been the pulse of the cybersecurity world, but this year, the beats are faster and louder than ever before. From quantum threats to AI-powered attacks, from cloud vulnerabilities to the exploitation of critical infrastructure, the breadth and depth of topics covered at Black Hat USA 2024 are staggering. Here, we will discuss what you have missed at Black Hat USA 2024 that might be life-changing for you in the cybersecurity world. So, let's get started. Let's start with a bombshell. In a presentation titled Breaching AWS Accounts Through Shadow Resources, researchers Yakir Katkoda, Michael Kaczynski, and Afik Itaj unveiled 6 critical vulnerabilities in Amazon Web Services. These vulnerabilities weren't found in the obvious places. They were lurking in the shadows, in the complex interactions between different AWS services. It's like finding a secret passage in a house you thought you knew every inch of. The researchers discovered that some AWS services use other services as resources, and if this isn't done safely, it can lead to catastrophic results. Now, before you panic and start pulling the plug on all your cloud services, there's good news. AWS has acknowledged and fixed these vulnerabilities. But this discovery raises a crucial question. How many other shadow vulnerabilities are out there, waiting to be exploited? But the cloud wasn't the only target in the crosshairs at Black Hat USA 2024. Let's shift gears and talk about something that's been on everyone's mind lately: AI and machine learning. In a groundbreaking session titled Practical LLM Security, Takeaways from a Year in the Trenches, Richard Herring from NVIDIA dropped some truth bombs about the state of large language model security. Herring focused on something far more immediate and practical: the security risks of integrating LLMs into real-world applications. Herring and his team at NVIDIA have implemented dozens of LLM-powered applications and learned some hard lessons along the way. One of the most striking revelations was that most security risks don't lie in the LLM itself, but in how it's integrated into applications. It's like having a state-of-the-art alarm system, but leaving your front door wide open. The presentation highlighted the most common and impactful types of attacks on LLM applications. And let me tell you, some of these are downright scary. We're talking about attacks that could potentially manipulate AI responses, leak sensitive data, or even hijack entire systems. Herring also shared strategies for assessing LLM integrations from a security perspective and designing more secure integrations from the ground up. But AI isn't the only technology pushing the boundaries of what's possible and what's vulnerable. James Kettle, the director of research at Portswigger, took the stage with a presentation that sounded almost too good to be true. Listen to the whispers: web timing attacks that actually work. Now, timing attacks aren't new, but Kettle found a way to make these attacks both accurate and efficient, even without prior configuration or perfect lab conditions. Imagine being able to detect a sub-millisecond time difference in just 10 seconds. That's the level of precision we're talking about here. Kettle demonstrated how these timing attacks could be used to uncover server secrets, find hidden routes to forbidden areas, and expose a vast expanse of invisible attack surfaces. Kettle backed up every technique with multiple real-world case studies on diverse targets. He even released a suite of open-source tools that enable both automated exploitation and custom attack scripting. But as fascinating as web timing attacks are, they pale in comparison to the next revelation that rocked Black Hat USA 2024. Let's talk about VPNs, those trusty tools we all use to protect our online privacy. Well, it turns out they might not be as trustworthy as we thought. Ori David, a senior security researcher at Akamai, delivered a chilling presentation titled Tunnel Vision: Exploring VPN Post-Exploitation Techniques. He introduced a new concept: VPN post-exploitation. It's not just about gaining entry into internal networks anymore. David showed how attackers with control over a compromised VPN server could collect user credentials, move laterally within a network, and maintain persistent access. David focused on 2 of the most common VPN servers on the market: Ivanti Connect Secure and FortiGate. He demonstrated various techniques that an attacker could use to abuse these compromised servers. Speaking of trusted tools turning against us, let's shift gears and talk about something that affects billions of devices worldwide: Windows updates. Alan Lviv, a security researcher from SafeBreach, dropped a bombshell with his presentation, Windows Downdate, Downgrade Attacks Using Windows Updates. Now, we all know how important it is to keep our systems updated. It's Cybersecurity 101, right? Well, Lviv turned that notion on its head. He demonstrated how attackers could exploit Windows updates to downgrade critical OS components, including DLLs, drivers, and even the .NET kernel itself. But here's the truly scary part. After these downgrades, the OS still reports that it's fully updated. It can't install future updates, and recovery and scanning tools are unable to detect any issues. Lviv also showed how this technique could be used to disable virtualization-based security, including features like Credential Guard and Hypervisor Protected Code Integrity. These are some of the most advanced security features in Windows, and Lviv found a way to bypass them even when they're enforced with UEFI logs. The implications of this research are enormous. It makes the term fully patched essentially meaningless. Any Windows machine worldwide could potentially be vulnerable to this attack. Lviv even released a tool called Windows Downdate that can craft custom downgrades and expose thousands of past vulnerabilities, effectively turning fixed vulnerabilities into 0 days. At Black Hat USA 2024, a team of researchers from Harvard University presented a groundbreaking framework for evaluating national cybersecurity strategies. Led by Eric Rosenbach, a senior lecturer in public policy, the team compared the strategies of a dozen key countries, including the US, China, the UK, Germany, South Korea, Singapore, the UAE, and Australia. Now, you might be thinking, national security strategies sounds a bit dry, but trust me, this is far from a dusty academic exercise. These strategies shape how countries defend against cyber threats, how they invest in cybersecurity, and even how they conduct defensive operations in cyberspace. The Harvard team interviewed more than 20 officials and non-government experts from all the countries in their study. They evaluated each strategy against a 67-point rubric, looking at everything from how countries approach emerging threats like AI and quantum computing to how they balance offensive and defensive capabilities. One of the most intriguing aspects of their research was the identification of 10 policies that should serve as global standards. However, perhaps the most valuable part of their work was the tailored recommendations for each country. They pointed out specific gaps that need to be addressed and opportunities for policy improvement. Now, let's shift gears and dive into something that affects millions of people every day: mobile security. At Black Hat USA 2024, a team of researchers from Pennsylvania State University unveiled a tool that could revolutionize how we test the security of 5G networks. Their presentation, titled "Cracking the 5G Fortress: Peering into 5G's Vulnerability Abyss," introduced 5G Base Checker, the first dynamic security testing framework designed to uncover logical vulnerabilities in 5G baseband implementations. The team tested 17 commercial 5G basebands and 2 open-source implementations. What they found was alarming: 13 unique 0-day vulnerabilities and a total of 65 vulnerability instances across all tested implementations. However, the most critical vulnerability they discovered was what they called the 5G AKA bypass. This flaw, found on one of the most widely used 5G basebands, allows attacker to intercept and eavesdrop on victims' internet data and inject phishing SMS messages. The implications are staggering. This vulnerability affects users globally who use 5G devices with that particular baseband. Speaking of promises and security, let's talk about something we all rely on every day: the Domain Name System, or DNS. At Black Hat USA 2024, a team of researchers from Tsinghua University and Nankai University presented their findings on what they call the two-door attack. Now, DNS might seem like old news in the world of cybersecurity. After all, it's been around since the early days of the internet. However, as these researchers have shown, there are still new vulnerabilities in this fundamental protocol. The two-door attack exploits logic vulnerabilities in DNS response preprocessing. In simpler terms, they found ways to trick DNS servers into accepting malformed packets, leading to a variety of attacks. We're talking about the fastest DNS cache poisoning attack ever seen, with a time cost of less than 1 second. They also demonstrated denial of service attacks and ways to circumvent query limits to deplete resolution resources. The implications of the two-door attack are far-reaching. The researchers found that 24 mainstream DNS software implementations, including big names like Bind, PowerDNS, and Microsoft DNS, were affected. They also tested 16 popular Wi-Fi routers, 6 prevalent router OSs, 42 public DNS services, and around 1.8 million open DNS resolvers. The results? 7 routers or router OSs, 18 public DNS services, and over 424,000 open DNS resolvers were vulnerable to two-door attacks. The researchers have been responsible for their disclosure and reporting of the vulnerabilities to all affected vendors. Many major players, including Bind, Chrome, Cloudflare, and Microsoft, have acknowledged the findings and are working on mitigation solutions. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There was much more than you could ever imagine. Are you feeling a twinge of regret for not attending Black Hat USA 2024 in person? And what topic from Black Hat 2024 intrigued you the most? Share your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe.